What's going on, people? Guns Blazing back at it again, and today we have what I believe to be the most consistent competitive waifu deck. Yes, in terms of waifu decks only, I'm actually liking this a bit more than my usual go-to waifus like D-Mate and Striker, and I'll explain exactly why. So this Evil Twin variant is running the Link Disciple combo, meaning we end on a very decent board just from 2 cards. So here we got the pink starter and pink extender. That's gonna be full combo. It's gonna use the 2 twins right away, make Disciple on top and Devotee on the bottom. Disciple pops effect, sacks Devotee, which gets you a mulligan plus 2 tokens on the board. You go ahead and turn these 2 into IP Mask, and then you turn the extender and the Disciple into the Link Twin, which summons and then gets you the other Link Twin. And this is why the pink extender is better, because you end on the pink, giving you a card draw. And the crazy thing about this is that Pot of Avarice, if you are lucky enough to draw it, you have enough to pop the effect while keeping the Lil-la Link engrave as well as Ki-sikil Frost. So on board, you already have 2 disruptions in your pink that summons out the blue and your IP Mask that can make Unicorn, plus whatever hand traps you draw. Which is another wild thing about this deck, is that since the engine is so compact, you can afford to run so many hand traps as well as face downs. So now this guy's just gonna get hit with multiple interruptions. I'm gonna pop the Pendulum Scale with the blue. I also have the Ghost Ogre on deck. Yes, I do have space to run it alongside Ash, and it catches a lot of people off guard. Gonna wait for this Pendulum to pop its discard cost, and then Ghost Ogre to prevent the effect. And all 3 VTubers still ready to go. Ready for all kinds of ear-licking ASMR, feet cams, you name it, man. Usually Mask and Pink will go out into Unicorn on the next one. That makes blue summoning Pink available, which makes another card draw. And we still have the E-Veiler in hand. And honestly, it's not really hard for this deck to end up with a start like that. Here's one against Drytrons, I think same start. So let's go ahead and skip the opening combo. You can go back and rewatch from the first duel if you want. And here we are absolutely stacked. So we have the full combo, plus we have Maxx, Veiler, and Nib in the hand, plus Called by the Grave. Plus Frost in the Grave whenever they add a card, we add a card, which gets us Ash. That's 4 hand traps. So we're gonna Ash this Foolish Burial. And again, the only reason we can afford to run this plethora of hand traps is because the engine of this deck is so consistent. Gonna Maxx this real quick, and that's why this deck, I believe, is consistent. Because unlike other decks, you're not favoring turn 1 or turn 2 heavily. Like Striker's hard prefers turn 2, but this deck, it goes turn 1 or turn 2, no complaint. And then you've also got the really strong turn 1 that's consistent as well. Here we just completely shut down this Drytron. I've never seen a Drytron player so helpless. He ends his turn, so this is when I pop. And let's say we didn't have to use IP Mask for Unicorn, we can end on Abomination and still get the pink draw. He continues main and tries to do some shenanigans, but I have Called by the Grave for his Zeta. And the crazy thing about Abomination, if they set any cards after this, you get to pop one of them at the end phase. And you're gonna have to forgive me for missing lethal on this turn, but as you can see, like board-wise, this is a 1 game. Like there's no way to come back. We have the Judgment. We're still gonna have the pink to blue pop, and potentially the Abomination pop after the blue pop. And we have the Droplet as well, so it's just gonna turn out to be an honorable Sudoku, as well as we still have the continuous burn going. So here's what happens if you don't have enough to get an extender. All in all, it's still pretty solid. I don't even have to Called by the Grave on this Ash because I already have, Sunny Snitch in hand. So no extender, we just have to use Sunny Snitch to pick up our starter. But if you take a look at the hand, right, like, even if you don't have the extender, you have a lot of interruptions through other methods. And I'll argue this is actually harder to deal with than like full monster boards or full back row, because those can get easily dealt with a Lightning Storm or a Dark Ruler no more. But here you're worrying about the monsters, you're worrying about the back row, plus I have hand traps in hand. It's literally a VTuber feet attack from multiple angles. I went ahead and Solemn the Lightning Storm because I thought Called by the Grave would get some value, which it turned out it did because he used Twin Twisters on it. Turns out it's a Numeron deck. I can just Ghost Ogre this. Ghost Ogre is nice for popping the field spells and continuous spells. And then there's no more plays after that. I go ahead and do the Lil-la Shuffle so I can get another card draw, and he just scoops after that. So here it is, and as you can see, we have the luxury of being able to run the standard hand traps, plus a couple of Ghost Ogres, plus Nib, plus an E-Veiler for the Link Climb package, although I'm not too sure this deck needs the Link Climb package. It's always nice to be able to finish someone off, but even if you don't, like if you got control of the board, you're likely gonna win regardless. Chuck the Solemn in there, and this is nice for being able to stop Harpie's Feather Duster or Lightning Storms. You even have some room for a couple of droplets, and this helps us out a lot going second, but it can also be set going first as it pairs up nicely with the Sunny Snitch. Stays on the board for a free droplet send, and then we even have room for the counter hand trap core, Called by the Grave, and a nice Crossout Designator because we have many targets for Crossout Designator. Plus, we have some back row hate due to all the stun and back row decks running around. And of course, you can tune this how you want. This is specifically how I like to run it because, again, it makes it a jack of trades kind of deck. Can go turn 1 or turn 2, very balanced and able to deal with anything with no real weakness. And you might have noticed I'm not running the boss twins. I don't feel it's necessary, but if you're running it, then one would be okay. I'm not really running home either. Only reason you would ever run this is if you want some kind of backup in case your starters get interrupted. But for the most part, you should be able to play through an interruption or two. And as usual, the deck has 6 starters plus 6 ways to draw into those starters plus 2 desires. But as always, you can check if it's consistent enough for your personal tastes, like use draw 5 and see that you're always going to start with like a starter, or at least the Sunny Snitch, or a Pot and a Snitch. Like, yeah, for the most part, you're not gonna brick with this deck. Wait, I'm actually not bricking. Wait. Okay, even this is not a brick, but you get the point. Now, to fully complete my betrayal towards Sky Strikers, let me show you a matchup against Sky Striker with 2 Called by the Grave, so I can use one on this Droll. No extender on this one, unfortunately, but we go ahead and summon Ki-sikil, and that's gonna pull our blue Heat Ash, but again, we have another Called by the Grave. It's not once per turn. Now, this is probably the kind of RNG that gets me fuming if it ever happened to me, so feel bad for this guy, kinda. Anyways, this is going to be a solid start. We have a Cyclone and a Droplet available. The Droplet, of course, has a free Sunny Snitch send, and we end on a pink. Well, after we get this blue and go into pink to get another card draw, we consolidate back into pink. We have a nice Duster for the follow-up. Goes ahead and pops a Terraforming, picks up Area 0. Good thing about Cyclone, it banishes, it doesn't send to the grave, and this has to send to the grave for its extra effect, so he doesn't get that. He has Desires though, goes out into Ray. Attempts to get the extra attack in with Ray, but the droplets in the damage step will prevent this guy from even popping it. He can't pop it in the damage step. And I get that, it's kind of rare for that to happen, so he doesn't even bother playing around that. And main phase 2, he sets a card, but obviously we still have the blue pop. Easy Solemn Judgment hit. Alright, here's one against Tribrigade in case you wanted to see how it goes a little. I personally like to hit Nerve Ball with the Ash in this matchup rather than like Tenki or something. He DD Crows, which just banishes the Ash but doesn't prevent it. But it does get a beast into his grave for, I guess, Karis to be able to pop his summon effect, summon out a Link 2. Then go on to Silver Sheller. Doesn't really seem like the optimal line of play if I'm being honest, but I don't F much with Tribrigades. I only play Bird Up. He does end on an Omen and a Revolt though, which is I guess kind of scary, and I'm just going to attempt to do the full combo going turn 2 here. I went with the blue extender instead of the pink one because I want to get the card destruction effect off. So go ahead, do the Disciple Devotee shenanigans, and I'm going to go ahead and make IP Mask here. He's going to Revolt on it. I'm going to Maxx C, which only gets 2 draws. One for the summon 4 and one when he links off, because technically these summons all happen at the same time. Gets his second Omen out, but I'm not really too concerned about this. I'm just going to Droplet once all of this stuff resolves. Yeah, I had an Upstart in here. This was one of my earlier versions of this deck. If you're ever wondering, the deck list I show in the middle of the video is actually the latest. The Upstart picks up a nice little Pot of Avarice, and again, we have enough monsters in the grave to roll with that. Pink Link out, pink summons blue, blue gets to destroy the 3k attack one, then we Avarice. Always a nice choice to have at least one of this in the deck because it refreshes your links, plus it gets the starters back into the deck. Wait, I drew so many cards this turn. I even got the Desires off, plus the Secret Pass. I guess I went ahead and got Ki-sikil Frost into the grave here too and ended on a pink, so it's looking nice. We have the IP Mask again. Just gonna go ahead and pop it right here, summon the blue to kill the Omen. But again, it's pretty much GG from here. We have Maxx C, we have Ghost Ogre in hand, just chilling. He's gonna be able to pick up a card with Nerval here, but anytime he draws a card, we can also draw a card using Frost from the grave. And on the Zoodiac normal summon, it's just an easy Nightmare, and he's out of options. Blue summons pink again for the card draw at the end of the turn, and that is le GG. So in conclusion, all in all, this can hang with the competitive decks. Obviously not every duel, but if I were to pick one waifu deck that is both fun to play and it has a pretty good win rate, I would pick this over even like Sky Strike. Specifically this variation though. I feel like the Link Disciple combo adds a lot to this, because without it, then like just by itself, you're just gonna have the pink twin summoning the blue twin, and that's not enough interruptions from your monsters. That extra layer that you have to make them go through with the IP mask can be the difference maker. Plus, I think the Ghost Ogre, which I was missing the last time I played this deck, is putting in a lot of work. Everyone's playing around the usual hand traps like Ash or Maxx, but they're usually not prepared for a Ghost Ogre. And I recently picked up 3 recently, and I'm going to try it out in a bunch of different decks to get some good testing on it. Here again, I tried to wait for the Nerval before I used Ash, but he has Gamma. And usually that would be GG, he just plays through this and then I die. He's going to pick up a Karis here, discard 1 to special summon it, but I have Ki-sikil, so I'm going to pop that before it gets to Link summon. Summon a Link, rather. But after that, he has Nerve, so he's going to summon Doom Eagle. And here's where Ghost Ogre is going to come in clutch. And from this point, it's actually a very easy comeback. He only has 1 monster that can beat over our twins, and that's the driver, but that's going to be sent away. But here's just the tough part about this deck, is that whenever you use the Lil-la or the Ki-sikil Link Twin to summon, you're locked into, I think, Fiends for the rest of your extra deck summons. And that makes it hard to finish them off sometimes, but regardless, like if you get to this state, you have probably just slowly generated advantage throughout the whole game. Unicorn's deck bounce is going to get even more value here because the Nerval can't search from the grave. And this is pretty much throwing 101. I go ahead and Phoenix and kill the Tenki, which you don't really want to do because it opens you up to Lightning Storm. But what this does do is get the Nightmare's co-link so you can draw 2 in the draw phase. Prevent the Maxx Sudoku. Yep, you're going by my terms, my friend. Another going second example where we use our hand traps to discourage the opponent from setting up too big of a board. And whatever summons they do, our Maxx is going to get them punished for it. By the way, one question I have for you guys is, do you prefer replay content or live stream content? I've been trying to do a bit of both, but let me know your thoughts. Guy has a pretty decent play of just sitting on the Bagoose, but I do have the Forbidden Droplet plus Cyclone, so I can nullify his entire board. And this one has to be like one of the most brutal scenarios to ever be in, because we have the Solemn Judgment, we have Cyclone, we can fully extend with the Devotee Disciple. We get an E-Veiler off the mulligan too, which is another little thing that pitches into this deck's consistency. And it's just those small things that add up, like the pink card draw, the Frost card draw from the grave if they ever draw a card. And if the deck ever gets to set up like this, it's almost as oppressive as Drytron, while at the same time it's harder to break. We got our eggs all in different baskets. And by the way, side note, if they ever like Raigeki or Lightning Storm targeting the monsters, you just go ahead and IP mask into like Unchained or Accesscode, maybe even Abramax, and then you have a monster that's indestructible. Anyways, peep the board, more interruptions than he has cards. Borderline even toxic right here. I'm gonna try to climb with this deck to Plat 1 for next season, I think. Use my code BLAZING for 50% off